Welcome back to the Raindrop. Today we're going to be talking about the Abu Ghraib torture and prison abuse. I found out about this a couple of months ago. I would say around Christmas time. I stumbled upon it watching a Iraq documentary and how all that went down over there. And I was not aware of this at all. I maybe had seen a picture or two, but wasn't aware of what it was. But when I was watching the Iraq documentary, I saw the pictures displayed of soldiers having prisoners on chains and bounded around their neck, naked. Let's see here. I meant to pull this up so we can have other images. So, before we get into looking at the images, though, if you do have a weak stomach and do not want to hear this, turn this off now. So, I'm going to go ahead and say that before we get into the details. So, the Abu Ghraib torture and prisoner abuse was during the early stages of the Iraq War. Members of the United States Army and the CIA committed a series of human rights violations and war crimes against detainees in the Abu Ghraib prison in Iraq, including physical and sexual abuse, torture, rape, sodomy, and the killing of Manadel al-Jamadi. The abuses came to public attention with the publication of photographs of the abuse by CBS News in April 2004. The incidents caused shock and outrage, receiving widespread condemnation within the United States and internationally. The George W. Bush administration claimed that the abuses at Abu Ghraib were isolated incidents and not indicative of U.S. policy. This was disputed by humanitarian organizations including the Red Cross, Amnesty International, and the Human Rights Watch. These organizations stated that the abuses at Abu Ghraib were part of a wider pattern of torture and brutal treatment at American overseas detention centers, including those in Iraq, Afghanistan, and at Guantanamo Bay. These documents, popularly known as the torture memos, came to light a few years later. These documents, prepared in the months leading up to the 2003 invasion of Iraq by the United States Department of Justice, authorized certain enhanced interrogation techniques. Not torture, enhanced interrogation techniques. Don't you just love the political spin that's put on that? Oh, you need to vote for the Patriot Act. If you don't vote for the Patriot Act, you're not a patriot. You're a patriot, aren't you? It's that kind of shit. It's that kind of shit right there. Like, this is why I am so anti-government. Burn all this shit down. Burn it down. We don't need it. Because this is what we end up with. This is why I'm an anarchist. This is why I'm anti-war. Like, Saddam Hussein? Where are the weapons of mass destruction? Huh? They never found any. So, we end up torturing prisoners. 20% of prisoners, 22%, no charges, but were kept there for 5, 6, 7, 8 months, being tortured and interrogated. They didn't do anything. Okay, so let's put this into perspective. You voted for Joe Biden, okay? Because some of these people, they supported. You could say they supported Al Qaeda. You could say because that was the government in their villages. But if it came to something better coming along, these people wouldn't be opposed to it. They're not actively hating America and wanting to kill Americans. They're just under that, what am I trying to say here? They're under that governmental control of radicals. So if a freedom-loving country such as America, freedom-loving, comes in and wants to give you something better, they wouldn't be opposed to that. But they were, what's the word I'm looking for? They were profiled and just brought in the masses. Oh, well, you were you conspired to build a roadside bomb. What proof? Shut up. Take your clothes off. Like, there was no proof of these crimes. That, don't get me wrong, there were people there that did horrible things to Americans. Don't get me wrong, but I am on the belief of I would rather 10 innocent men go, or 10 guilty men go free than one innocent man die. So that's just me, and especially when it's not just one, when it's 20%, and at one point they had 6,000 detainees there. That's 1,200 innocent people being tortured and interrogated for something that they didn't do, that they can't help you with. They can't give you any intel because they're not fucking a radical. They're just civilians. So it would be like you voting for Joe Biden and us being invaded by Russia, and Russia pulls you into a concentration camp and starts torturing you, beating you, and we'll get into more of the actual details here in a minute. But they would do all these horrendous things to you, trying to get intel out of you of where Joe Biden is, and they want to kill Joe Biden, and you have no idea. You're just a civilian that goes and works a warehouse job. That's it. You go and till the fields, and you're sitting here being demanded to tell them something that you don't know. That's what these people went through. Night after night, sleep deprivation, sound, I don't know what you call it, loud music and such. Being confined in small spaces. One guy had roaches dumped on him. They put him in a box that was small as for a child, and they found out that he had a phobia of roaches. And they literally threw roaches on top of him and left him in this box for hours with roaches crawling all over him. And there's nothing he can do. He's just locked in a box with roaches crawling all over him. Like that. Oh, that's just. I can't endorse that. Not of so many innocent people. You can't just bring in a dragnet and do that to all these innocent people. That doesn't, no. And I want to say I'm all for an eye for an eye. All for it. But when we are so technologically advanced, our technology, even in 2004, you mean to tell me we have to dragnet and bring in 6,000 people? We can't isolate where we attack? We can't have solid intel and evidence that these people are crooked, that these people are evil, that these people want to harm us? I don't want to torture Pakistanis. I don't want to torture Iranians. I don't want to torture Iraqis. I don't want to torture the Afghanis. I don't want to torture these people. If I saw an Afghani in the street, I'd want to sit and talk to him for a minute. There's a difference in culture. That's cool to me. I ask people all the time if I see that, if I notice that they're not from around here, they're not from here, I'm like, hey man, hey girl, whatever,
where are you from? And if they say, Kuwait or Qatar or whatever, I'm like, oh, that's really cool. Like, I've got buddies that were born in Kuwait, and they came over here. Their dad was pretty much born and raised in Kuwait. And one of my buddies was over in, I can't remember the name of the town now. I take in too much information. Where the explosion was, there was an explosion on like a coast. Building blew up. It was a bunch of chemicals blew up like 2 years ago. But Beirut, the Beirut explosion. My buddy was about an hour and a half away and felt the aftershock kind of, and was there helping pull bodies out. Those are the people I like to associate with. That they have Arab descent. I don't look at them any different than my Irish and Scottish, or not Irish, Scottish descent people. Like, if you're good people, I want you in my circle. Some of these people were hardworking farmers just trying to make a living to feed their families. And they got them and their families locked up for months at a time being tortured. That's not right. That's not right. No matter how you cut that. Like, I'm all for an eye for an eye. Those towers got bombed. So whether or not it's a whole nother rabbit hole of whether or not the government orchestrated that. And it's another rabbit hole that, we kind of asked for that. Sticking our noses where it didn't belong and funding rebels that turned their back on us. If we weren't playing military police, we never funded bin Laden and the Mujahideen. But no, the United States has to play world police. Anyway, I've gotten way far off. I'll just start Alex Jonesing it and tying all this shit together. Alright, so let's see here. Documents probably known as the torture memos came to light a few years later. These documents, prepared in months leading up to the 2003 invasion of Iraq by the United States Department of Justice, authorized certain enhanced interrogation techniques generally held to involve torture of foreign detainees. The memoranda also argued that international humanitarian laws such as Geneva Conventions did not apply to American interrogators overseas. So, I'm going to stop again. I'm going to break down the Geneva Convention. The Geneva Conventions are 4 treaties and 3 additional protocols that establish international legal standards for humanitarian treatment in war. The singular term for Geneva Convention usually denotes the agreements of 1949, blah, 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 blah. So, basically what this is saying is Al-Qaeda did not sign on to the Geneva Conventions. So, they did not follow those rules, so those rules and regulations did not apply to them. That's fair, but at the same time, everyone in these dragnets are not Al-Qaeda, you stupid fuck. They're just citizens. And so because they're an Iraqi, they have no rights at all. Don't we believe in freedom and rights? Humanitarian rights? Isn't that what we believe in? This proves otherwise. In response to the events at Abu Ghraib, the United States Department of Defense removed 17 soldiers and officers from duty. 11 soldiers were charged with dereliction of duty, maltreatment, aggravated assault, and battery. Between May 2004 and April 2006, these soldiers were court-martialed, convicted, sentenced to military prison, and dishonorably discharged from service. 2 soldiers found to have perpetrated many of the worst offenses at the prison, Specialist Charles Grainer and PFC Lindy England, Lindy England, if I'm getting the name right, is one of the women that I have multiple pictures of that I took when I was watching these documentaries, just because it was her poses with these detainees is so atrocious that I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Like, it pissed me off. Like, it seriously pissed me off, like, when I was watching this. So, let's see. They were subject to more severe charges and received harsher sentences. Grainer was convicted of assault, battery, conspiracy, maltreatment of detainees, committing indecent acts, and dereliction of duty. He was sentenced to 10 years imprisonment and loss of rank, pay, and benefits. England was convicted of conspiracy, maltreating detainees, and committing an indecent act and sentenced to 3 years in prison. Brigadier General Janis Karpinski, the commanding officer of all detention facilities in Iraq, was reprimanded and demoted to the rank of colonel. Several more military personnel who were accused of perpetrating or authorizing the measures, including many of higher rank, were not prosecuted. So, all the little grunts and all the little pawns in the military got their torture, or not their torture, got their punishment. There we go, not torture. Got their punishment, got their prison time, but none. Several more military personnel who were accused of perpetrating or authorizing the measures, including many of higher rank, were not prosecuted. One of the fuckers, I'll get to his name here in a minute, I'm sure he's in here somewhere, he basically headed not only Abu Ghraib, he also headed Guantanamo Bay, and George Bush sent him from Guantanamo Bay to Abu Ghraib because he was getting great intel out of Guantanamo Bay with his techniques, and he needed to implant those techniques to Abu Ghraib. So George Bush sent this demented fucker to Abu Ghraib to make it even more intense. And he got a promotion. Alright, so Iraq War. Alright, the Abu Ghraib prison in the town of Abu Ghraib was one of the most notorious prisons in Iraq during the government of Saddam Hussein. The prison was used to hold approximately 50,000 men and women in poor conditions, and torture and execution were frequent. The prison was located on 280 acres of land 32 kilometers west of Baghdad. After the collapse of Saddam Hussein's government, the prison was looted and everything that was removable was carried away. Following the invasion, the U.S. Army refurbished it and turned it into a military prison. It was the largest of several detention centers in Iraq used by the U.S. military. In March 2004, during the time that the U.S. military was using the Abu Ghraib prison as a detention facility, it housed 7,490 prisoners. Wow. I remembered hearing 6,000. So, 7,490. 3 categories of prisoners were imprisoned at Abu Ghraib by the U.S. military. These were common criminals, individuals suspected of being leaders of the insurgency, and individuals suspected of committing crimes against the occupational force led by the U.S. Although most prisoners lived in tents in the yard, the abuses took place inside cell blocks 1A and 1B. The 800th Military Police Brigade from Uniondale, New York, was responsible for running the prison. The brigade was commanded by Brigadier, I don't know how to say that, General Janis Karpinski. I said her name wrong earlier. I said Karpinski, who was in charge of all the U.S.-run prisons in Iraq. She did not have previous experience in running a prison. None of them did. The individuals who committed abuses at the prison were members of the 372nd MP Company, which was a constituent of the 320th MP Battalion, which was overseen by Karpinski's brigade headquarters. The Fay report noted that contracting related issues contributed to the problems at Abu Ghraib prison. Over half the interrogators working at the prison were employees of CACI International, while Titan Corporation supplied linguistics personnel. In his report, General Fay notes that the general policy of not contracting for intelligence functions and services was designed in part to avoid many of the problems that eventually developed at Abu Ghraib. CACI International is an American multinational professional services and information technology company headquartered in Northern Virginia. CACI provides services to many branches of the U.S. federal government, including defense, homeland security, intelligence, blah, 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 blah. Fucking war criminals. 1 second. Gotta get my tea. Okay. In June 2003, Amnesty International published reports of human rights abuses by the U.S. military and its coalition partners at detention centers and prisons in Iraq. Let's see. These included reports of brutal treatment at Abu Ghraib prison, which had once been used by the government of Saddam Hussein and had been taken over by the United States after the invasion. On June 20th, 2003, Abdel Salam Saddam, Deputy Director of the Middle East Program, described an uprising by the prisoners against the conditions of their detention, saying the notorious Abu Ghraib prison, center of torture and mass executions under Saddam Hussein, is yet again a prison cut off from the outside world. On the 13th of June, there was a protest in this prison against indefinite detention without trial. Troops from the occupying powers killed 1 person and wounded 7. On July 23, 2003, Amnesty International issued a press release condemning widespread human rights abuses by U.S. and coalition forces. The release stated that the prisoners had been exposed to extreme heat, not provided clothing, and forced to use open trenches for toilets. They had also been tortured with the methods including denial of sleep for extended periods, exposure to bright lights and loud music, and being restrained in uncomfortable positions, such as being strung up like this on your tippy toes for hours on end. On November 1st, 2003, the Associated Press presented a special report on the massive human rights abuses at Abu Ghraib. The reports began in Iraq's American detention camps. Forbidden talk can earn a prisoner hours bound and stretched out in the sun, and detainees swinging tent poles rise up regularly against their jailers, according to recently released Iraqis. The report went on to describe abuse of the prisoners at the hands of the American captors. They confined us like sheep, the newly freed Saad Naif 38 said of the Americans. They hit people, they humiliated people. In response, General Janis Karpinski, who oversaw all U.S. detention facilities in Iraq, claimed that prisoners were being treated humanely and fairly. The AP report also stated that as of November 1st, 2003, there were 2 legal cases pending against U.S. military personnel, one involving the beating of an Iraqi prisoner, while the other arose out of the death of a prisoner in custody. Since the beginning of the invasion, the International Committee of the Red Cross had been allowed to oversee the prison and submitted reports about the treatment of the prisoners. In response to an ICRC report, Karpinski stated that several of the prisoners were intelligence assets and therefore not entitled to complete protection under the Geneva Conventions. Another thing to state, intelligence assets. They were not getting intelligence. They weren't getting anything. They were struggling to get intelligence out of these people. That's why they had to keep getting harsher and harsher with the torture, because these people didn't know anything. The majority of the people, they're just not getting anything. And a lot of people didn't know anything, and they just keep on torturing them. Let's see here. The ICRC reports led to Lieutenant General Ricardo Sanchez, the commander of the Iraqi task force, appointing Major General Antonio Taguba to investigate the allegations on January 1st, 2004. Taguba submitted his findings, the Taguba report, I don't know if I'm saying this dude's name right, Taguba, in February 2004, stating that the numerous incidents of sadistic, blatant, and wanton criminal abuses were inflicted on several detainees. This systemic and illegal abuse of detainees was intentionally perpetrated by several members of the military police guard force. The report stated that there was widespread evidence of this abuse, including photographic evidence. The report was not released publicly. The abuse was also perpetrated by 3 female military officers shown in the images on this page, where they received a wide range of attention and were later convicted with several other members. Another problem I have, and I mean, yeah, this might not be something that necessary to bitch about, but this part right here. That part right there. Publicly. Was not released publicly. So, it eventually did come out, obviously, and that's why I'm saying, okay, why am I bitching about this? It's the fact that this proves that this stuff happens and then it doesn't get publicly reported. How much of it never breaks the surface? How much never hits the mainstream news? There's so many people, even after this report came out, you can walk up to the average person anywhere in America today and they don't have a fucking clue that we tortured people in Iraq. They don't have any clue. They don't care because they're not told to care. That's why I'm doing this. The narrative and all the corruption and all this shit drives me insane. It makes me panicked. And I feel obligated to wake people up. Look at the manipulation. Look at the lies of the government. Look at the hiding of details and the redactions of declassified documents that we get. Why do you need to declassify that? We put you in office and now you're hiding information from us. That's why I say burn the whole fucking system down. Burn it down. It's so corrupted and it's so not for the people. It is so not for us. It is meant to be used against us, and we're just meant to be the pawns in the machine. And if we fire back and show that this system is corrupt, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. Okay, Alex Jones. The scandal came to widespread public attention in April 2004 when a 60 Minutes news report was aired on April 28th by CBS News, describing the abuse, including pictures showing military personnel taunting naked prisoners. I wonder... Alright, I'll show the pictures later. We'll go through the pictures. An article was published by Seymour M. Hersh in the New Yorker magazine, posted online on April 30th, and published days later in the May 10th issue, which also had a widespread impact. The photographs were subsequently reproduced in the press across the world. The details of the Taguba report were made public in May 2004. Shortly afterwards, U.S. President George W. Bush stated that the individuals responsible would be brought to justice, while United Nations General Secretary Kofi Annan said that the effort to reconstruct a government in Iraq had been badly damaged. On December 21, 2004, the American Civil Liberties Union released copies of internal memoranda from the Federal Bureau of Investigation that it had obtained under the Freedom of Information Act. These discuss torture and abuse at prisons in Guantanamo Bay Detention Camp, Afghanistan, and Iraq. One memorandum dated May 22, 2004, from an individual described as the on-scene commander of Baghdad, but whose name had been redacted. What did I just say? What word did I just use? Redacted. See what I mean? I will do this over and over and over again. It drives me up. You're literally seeing me short circuit live time. You're seeing me have an Alex Jones short circuit. I just you literally call it out, and then 2 minutes later, boom, there it is, redacted. And people want to tell me I'm crazy. I'm wrong. It's not that deep, brain. Is it? Or are you just too much of a damn simpleton to see it? Because this is complex. It is very, very complex. And if you're not in the weeds enough and you're looking at the tip of the iceberg and you're a simpleton again, yeah, all this shit seems crazy. The government's not out to get us. The government's not out to profit off of us and our suffering. You are insane. You obviously don't know your history. Here is your history. Okay? I'm reading it right now. This is American history. This individual referred explicitly to an executive order that sanctioned the use of extraordinary interrogation tactics by the U.S. military personnel. The torture methods sanctioned included sleep deprivation, hooding prisoners, playing loud music, removing all detainees' clothing, forcing them to stand in so-called stress positions, and the use of dogs. The author also stated that the Pentagon had limited use of the techniques by requiring specific authorization from the chain of command. The author identifies physical beatings, sexual humiliation, or touching as being outside the executive order. This was the first internal evidence since the Abu Ghraib prisoner abuse affair became public in April 2004 that forms of coercion of captives had been mandated by the President of the United States. So, I'll read that again. This was the first internal evidence since the Abu Ghraib prisoner abuse affair became public in April 2004 that forms of coercion of captives had been mandated by the President of the United States. The President. Documents obtained by the Washington Post and the ACLU show that Ricardo Sanchez, who was a lieutenant general and the senior U.S. military officer in Iraq, authorized the use of military dogs, temperature extremes, reverse sleep patterns, and sensory deprivation as interrogation methods in Abu Ghraib. Reverse sleep patterns, it's exactly as it says. Reversing your sleep patterns. They would literally, instead of sleeping for 8 hours, you got to sleep for 30 minutes, and then 2 hours, and then 15 minutes, and then an hour, and then 30 minutes, and then an hour, and then 15 minutes. And they would do that all day long. It's just, dude, this shit is just sick. Like, and this is our history, man. This is our history. A November 2004 report by Brigadier General Richard Formica found that many troops at the Abu Ghraib prison had been following orders based on a memorandum from Sanchez, and that the abuse had not been carried out by isolated criminal elements. ACLU lawyer Amrit Singh said in a statement from the Union that General Sanchez authorized interrogation techniques that were in clear violation of the Geneva Conventions and the Army's own standards. In an interview for her hometown newspaper, The Signal, Karpinski stated that she had seen unreleased documents from Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld, which authorized the use of these tactics on Iraqi prisoners. He authorized this shit. He was for it. I'm pretty sure Rumsfeld was the guy that sent the man I mentioned earlier. We may get into who he is. I can't remember his name. But one of the high-ranking military officials that was having success at Guantanamo Bay. So, a 2004 report by the New Yorker stated that the Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld had authorized the interrogation tactics used in Abu Ghraib, and which had previously been used by the U.S. in Afghanistan. In November 2006, Janice Karpinski, who had been in charge of Abu Ghraib prison until early 2004, told the Spain's El País newspaper that she had seen a letter signed by Rumsfeld which allowed civilian contractors to use techniques such as sleep deprivation during interrogation. The methods consisted of making prisoners stand for long periods, sleep deprivation, playing music at full volume, having to sit having to sit uncomfortably. Rumsfeld authorized these specific techniques. According to Karpinski, the handwritten signature was above his printed name, and the comment, "Make sure this is accomplished," was in the margin in the same handwriting. Neither the Pentagon nor U.S. Army spokespeople in Iraq commented on the accusation. In 2006, a criminal complaint was filed in a German court against Donald Rumsfeld by 8 former soldiers and intelligence operatives, including Karpinski and former Army counterintelligence special agent David DeBotto. Among other things, the complaint stated that Rumsfeld both knew of and authorized so-called enhanced interrogation techniques that he knew to be illegal and under international law. So, some of these techniques, literally, as you can see here, an Iraqi detainee, he's naked, covered in shit. Peanut butter? Like, okay. That's actually shit. So, an Iraqi detainee with human excreta smeared on his face and body. So that's human shit. So, there you go. That is enhanced interrogation techniques. That is what our government greenlit. They also would strip them naked, chain 3 men together, tell them to lay on the floor and crawl, rubbing, scrubbing, whatever word you want to use, their genitals against the floor. And then they would be grabbed by their handcuffs by one of these assholes and basically walked, like dragged. Imagine your genitals on a floor, a dirty, grimy prison floor in Iraq, and you're being drugged on your stomach with your genitals scrubbing the floor. That's what these people did to innocent people. I'm sure this was done to guilty people. I am sure of it. There's no way that all 7,000 were innocent. I'm 99% sure. But I'm also 99% sure that not everyone was guilty. And that is the difference. Prisoner abuse. The death of Monadel al-Jamadi. Monadel al-Jamadi, a prisoner at Abu Ghraib prison, died after CIA officer Mark Swanner and a private contractor identified in military court papers only as Clint C. There we go, with redacted again, hidden. You don't know who this guy is. Can't go knock on his door. Can't see him in prison. If it was me or you, our name would be on there. This is the shit that bothers me. Rules for thee, but not for fucking me. I hate it. I hate it. It makes my fucking blood boil. And I hope one day I see the shit fall. Even if it's total anarchy. I got me and my family. I got me. You gonna come up on me, I'll blow your brains out. I can take care of me and mine. This corrupt system that will screw you, but hide secret people, secret government people, private contractors that probably worked for, what's that private contractor from the war? I might be wrong on this. Shit, I spelled that wrong. But see, case against former Blackwater contractor ends in mistrial. Trump pardons Blackwater contractors jailed for massacre. Like, excuse me. I'm not sure if they were actually. No one is considered after multiple settled with some. I'm not sure if they were actually involved at Abu Ghraib. I know they had the massacre. But anyway, private contractors like Blackwater were there. So they interrogated and tortured him in November 2003. After al-Jamadi's death, his corpse was packed on ice. The corpse was in the background for widely reprinted photographs of grinning U.S. Army specialists Sabrina Harmon and Charles Grainer, of each of whom offered a thumbs-up gesture. Al-Jamadi had been a suspect in a bomb attack that killed 12 people in a Baghdad Red Cross facility. Even though there was no confirmation of his involvement in these attacks, a military autopsy declared Al-Jamadi's death a homicide. No one has been charged with his death. Oh, isn't that convenient? That's just a coincidence, right? It's always coincidences. It's always convenient. No one has been charged with his death. In 2011, Attorney General Eric Holder said that he had opened a full criminal investigation into al-Jamadi's death. In August 2012, Holder announced that no criminal charges would be brought. Don't you just love it? Don't you just love the government? They're just great. Awesome. Accountable. Trustworthy. Yeah. Riding with Biden. 2024. Adults are in the office. Like, dude, this shit is insane. That people just get away with this kind of shit, man. Like, all these secret government operations and blah, blah, blah. Like, oh, man. Okay, so let's dig deeper. In 2004, Antonio Taguba, Major General in the U.S. Army... Hold on. I just... Like, this shit seriously, like, stresses me out. And this is why I like to do this. For whoever watches this. Whether it's to criticize me, whether it's to mock me, whether it's to, agree with me, disagree with me, whatever. I'm doing this because I want people to know of the crooked, corrupt history that we have. And this system that is perpetually used to further this kind of shit. I want people to know what they're getting in line to go vote for. So, bash me, agree with me. I'm doing this for my own mental health. Keep me sane. If you look into the abyss long enough, you become the abyss. This is my way of not becoming the abyss. This makes me feel better at the end of the day if one person sees this that didn't know this happened. And it changes their perspective of how they see reality. Of how they see these Patriot Acts that come through and these stimulus bills that come through. If I can just change one person's mind of how they see reality and see politicians and the decision and war, drugs, everything, I've made a difference. And that's what that keeps me sane, is the fact that I don't have to just bottle up all this insanity and just walk around with it in my noggin. I'm constantly walking around at work like, hey, did you know this? Hey, did you know that? Did you know this? Like, I'm just a fact, what do you want to call, a fact dropper. I just always have these, no matter what conversation it is, it's just like, oh, well, did you know that, DuPont legislated to ban cannabis because it hurt their bottom line as a company? Like, it's that kind of thing. it hurt their bottom line. So now cannabis is illegal because a big corporate company lobbied and got the shit made illegal. Not because it's bad for you. That kind of shit. But I'm getting off topic. I'm ranting about how bad the government is in so many ways. So, we're gonna move on to prisoner rape with the Antonio Taguba thing I was just mentioning. It said that a major general in the U.S. Army wrote in the Taguba report that a detainee had been sodomized with a chemical light and perhaps a broomstick. In 2009, Taguba stated that there was photographic evidence of American soldiers and translators having raped detainees at Abu Ghraib. An Abu Ghraib detainee told investigators that he heard an Iraqi teenage boy screaming and saw an army translator raping him, while a female soldier took pictures. Oh, no. My bad. Get back here. Yeah, like, there's so much information on this. I'm not reading all of this, but I wanted to get a good bit. Another photo shows an American soldier apparently raping a female prisoner. Other photos show interrogators sexually assaulting prisoners with objects including a truncheon, wire, and a phosphorescent tube, and a female prisoner having her clothing forcibly removed to expose her breasts. Taguba supported United States President Barack Obama's decision to not release the photos, stating, "These pictures show torture, abuse, rape, and every indecency." Obama, who had initially agreed to release the photographs, changed his mind after lobbying from senior military figures. I just did it again. Twice in one video. I just told you that DuPont lobbied the government to ban cannabis because it hurt their bottom line as a company. I cannot type. I was trying to find my history. Yes, I'm a sports fan. Whoa.
Why, when you give an order, and you give a signal for a little bit of torture, why it spreads like wildfire? There is no such thing as a little bit of torture.
Attack us. I know you're upset. We're upset too.
Listen to this.
I took my aggression out because, hey, well, it's been okay this whole time.
I wrote the word rapist on one of them because his face sheet said he was a rapist, which was common practice to write on prisoners, just writing it on them.
That's her.
I don't even know why, but I just wrote it on him.
I don't know why I just wrote it on him.
I saw the one detainee.
I don't know why I was smiling in the pictures in front of detainees. It was just a normal thing to do.
The simulated fellatio. At that point, Frederick took the sandbag off the head of the one and pointed at us to show him that
If I saw something, I took a photo of it. The first thing I think of is take photos. That probably sounds really sick, but I'm always taking photos.
Yeah, it does, bitch.
Me. I've always taken photos. I was taking a photo from behind, and Sergeant Frederick said, "Hey, get in the photo," or "Let's take a photo," or something to that effect. And Grainer was behind me, and I just gave a thumbs up and smiled. I realized it was a pretty stupid thing to do right away, but it happened.
It happened. It happened. So, I'm not gonna. I've done enough on this. You can watch that full documentary. I'll link it in the down below. But I'm going to wrap this up. As you heard, nobody was seriously punished. You got the documents, you got the evidence. The response around the world was atrocious. Everybody hated us after this, and it was just absolutely atrocious, the things that we did. All these people, the convictions, these are low-level people that did a year, did 6 months. The one guy did 10 years. People got deranked, but none of the senior personnel, the high-ranking people, got anything. Like, and then, like, one thing I want to add is this Act of 2006. Critics consider the Military Commissions Act of 2006 an amnesty law for crimes committed in the War on Terror by retroactively rewriting the War Crimes Act. It abolished habeas corpus for foreign detainees, effectively making it impossible for detainees to challenge crimes committed against them. So now, in 2004, Bush apologizes for committing these atrocities, and then in 2006, they pass a bill under his administration saying that now we can do this shit, and you can't. It's impossible for you to challenge the crimes committed against you. So we're not sorry for doing it. Like, bro, this is what I'm talking about, and this shit makes my blood boil. And it'll keep happening over and over and over. Like, this level of just insanity. And if you missed my last video,